Hey everybody, it's James H. Roby. Again, continuing my series of interviews of people who are either in the literary world or somehow touched Jordan Noble's fictional world. So with me I have today is another person I served with. Haven't seen him in a long time. Walter Dedrick, also known as Smooth Ops. What's happening, Walt?
How you doing there, James?
All
What's going
right.
on?
All right. So Walter is not a spy, but
I am not a spy.
that's exactly what a spy would say. But anyway, Walter's done some work in the military and with the military as a civilian, so I'm going to let him introduce himself and tell us about his background. Go ahead, Walt.
Okay, so I'm Walt Dedrick. Currently, I live and work over in Okinawa, Japan, as a Department of Defense civilian. I work in logistics, so it's been a pretty good assignment right now, and just enjoying the island. So, if I tell you a little bit about myself, I don't know how far back you want me to go, but I'm actually a Southern transplant. I was actually born in Boston. Uh, Lived there until I was about maybe 6 or so. My mom moved me to California to live with her brothers and sisters for a bit. Then she moved me down to Alabama with her parents, and then that's where I met James and all these other folks that I've served with. Um, and then from there, I joined the Air Force as a second lieutenant and served at MacDill and Barksdale and Incirlik, Turkey, Izmir, Turkey, and then Herbert Field was my last assignment, active duty. Then I got out and became a DoD civilian. My first assignment there was Kaiserslautern, Germany. Was there for like 2.5 years, running around Europe, seeing all the sights and enjoying life. Then we moved to mainland Japan at Dakota Air Base, where I worked with DLA for a little bit. Then we moved back to Incirlik, Turkey, where I was a DoD civilian at Incirlik Air Base again. We were there for another 3.5 years. We bounced around the Balkans, all around Turkey, all around the Middle East, Israel, Jordan, Cyprus, um, and then went back to the States, to Texas at Shepherd Air Force Base. We were there for about three more years, and then my wife got a job as a tax specialist running the Kadena Tax Center in Okinawa. So that's what brings us here. So yeah, so we've been over my
So
relatively short life. Go ahead, I'm sorry.
you've been doing the logistic thing all along.
Yeah, for
So
20
as
plus
you
years now.
in your military role as well.
Yes.
So that being said, what exactly? I mean, for those who don't know, what is a logistics guy do?
The better question is, what doesn't a logistics guy do?
Okay.
so, so being a logistician, I've done things as far as moving supply parts for aircraft, or sourcing supply parts for aircraft, or doing fuel. I was a fuel flight commander at MacDill Air Force Base, where we would refuel the tankers, which would go off and refuel fighters. And so I worked for the Defense Logistics Agency, which was the big fuel for all of DoD in Germany and Turkey. And so I actually went to Turkey my first time with DLA, and we were moving fuel from Incirlik, outside of Incirlik Air Base, down to the border of Iraq and Turkey. So we were supporting humanitarian efforts down there from 2004 to 6. So that whole operation. So I was kind of over that whole field operation down there. So,
So
the
you're
top
throwing a
part
lot
of
of
field.
acronyms at us, Walter. What is?
I'm
Did you
sorry.
say DLA?
DLA, yes, Defense Logistics Agency. So they're over all of the supply for Department of Defense. So they do all the fuel, all the supply parts, all the uniforms, food, wood and lumber. I mean, they do all the classes of supply. So they do
So
everything.
basically, they go everywhere.
They're everywhere.
And
They're
that'd be a
everywhere.
good cover for a spy. I'm just
Yes,
saying.
it would.
I'm just saying. I'm not implying anything at all.
Exactly.
I'm just thinking.
Just
So
thinking, huh?
you've done that in both the civilian world and the military side. So I guess on the DoD, Department of Defense side, you serve other agencies besides the Air Force, Army,
Yes, I work
Navy.
for the Army, Air Force, DLA, and now I work for the Department of Defense Education Activity, which is STODEA. So I'm actually the student transportation supervisor for Okinawa. So this island has 13 schools on it. I've got 80 plus buses, and I move about maybe 5,000 kids a day. to and
So
from school.
that logistic is all local now,
Yes, it's all
and
local.
that's all the American kids or just
Yes,
kids in general,
all the American kids,
the DoD civilians.
DoD civilian kids.
All right. So how many countries have you been to?
I've been to 63 countries so far.
63 countries. Wow.
Yeah, I'm trying to see them all before I die.
You're on your way.
I'm trying to see them all.
And you also do some photography on the side.
Yeah, I do. I actually got into photography because we started traveling so much. Um, I think I got the travel bug. So I don't know if you notice about me, you probably do, but I joined the Navy after high school, and I served in the Navy for 2 years. And I was stationed in New Jersey, but I went and caught up with my ship. My first time was in Naples, Italy. So I actually flew from Baltimore after leaving basic training to go catch my ship in Naples, Italy. And then we did jobs between Rota, Spain, Corfu, Greece, around Cyprus, and then around Italy. So I think that's where I got the travel bug, and I just haven't been able to stop since.
Yeah, and Walter has taken some pretty good photos. I don't know if you have a website or anything, but
If you go to my Instagram, which is spokenlight_photography, you can
all
see
right,
most of my
we'll
work
put
there.
that in the links down
Okay.
here so that people can see that he has taken some really interesting photographs, especially of people, natives in their native environment, with probably Americans and people who don't are from the area won't actually see. But speaking of Americans, and being an American, you live abroad. You are obviously an American, and you've been in Japan during the entire epidemic that we've been facing here lately. Um, what has been your impression? I mean, you're around other Americans, but I guess you do have some interaction with the native population.
Mm-hmm.
What's been your impression of the Americans' response? What have you heard? What kind of reactions are people having to what Americans have done and our leadership as the world leader? Now, Walter, before you finish the sentence, Walter and I have had many conversations about America's leadership, but this is not the time or place for that. We're going to be good. We're going to pretend like we're still in uniform, and we're going to be good soldiers.
Yes, sir. Well, from what the Okinawans think of Americans and how we handle the pandemic. Um, a few weeks ago, a bunch of Marines got together with some locals, and they decided to have a beach party for the 4th of July. Um, and before this party, the cases on Okinawa like maybe 5, 6, 7, maybe. Now we're at over 800 for the whole island, on and off base.
Holy!
So
and they tracking it to that party?
They're tracking it partly to the party, but also Japan has allowed locals from mainland to come down to Okinawa to vacation. So it's partly our fault and partly their fault.
Okay.
So it's both, but the locals see us Americans as bringing this disease here and spreading around the island. Of course, you got the young Marines that hang out with the young Okinawan women and that kind of thing. So they think it came from that, but they're not quite sure yet. And as far as America being the world leader and all that whole thing, I think the world is disappointed in how we handle things and not being that world leader anymore. So I think folks have kind of looked away from us and looked towards Europe and Asia for that kind of guidance of how to handle this whole situation. So
is this is in contrast to what you've seen in other countries then in your travels?
As far as
America being the world leader, people looking to America for guidance. So this is a relatively. Go ahead. No, please.
New thing. Yeah, I think that whole thing has changed recently. Okay. So back when we were in Germany, I think that partnership between America and Germany was very strong. But now it's like, not quite where it was or where it needs to be.
Now, when you're referring to the partnership between you and the Germans, and now you and the Japanese, is this agency to agency, or just in general, Americans and?
Just in general, I think.
So there's some bad blood there.
Yeah.
So we're not pointing out any kind of deficiencies in American leadership. You're just reading the terrain and seeing what you see.
Oh, exactly.
Okay. Because we're not endorsing or
not at
bashing
all.
any candidates, or we're just looking at the way it is. So that is interesting, and there is a history with different countries and different reactions between them. You mentioned Germany, which was a strong leader, and that's wow, that's I mean that kind of gets me right here because
Yeah.
we have built a lot of our operations and relationships in Europe around our relationship with Germany. To hear that it's not as good anymore is kind of that's disappointing. But
Yeah,
it is what
it
it
is.
is. So how is your current react? I mean, do you live on the base or do you live in the community or how, do you interact with?
I live I live out in town, so we actually have a house in Okinawa City.
Okay,
So we don't really interact with our neighbors a lot because they're really shy people. But when we do see them, they smile, and they wave, and they bow, and they're cordial. But we don't go to people's houses, especially now. We don't want to go to someone's house and possibly
right,
infect them
right, right.
with
And that's when you
infected
say
So
especially now, you mean just because
yeah,
of
yeah, just COVID,
the COVID.
exactly. Yeah,
And
exactly.
do you are there? But you do have American friends, obviously, at work, and your wife
Oh
has
yeah, yeah,
family.
yeah,
So
definitely,
yeah,
definitely. Yeah, we have American and local Japanese friends. So yeah,
okay.
that works.
And there has it. And how is that? I mean, I know how it is here in the United States. We're all sheltered at home. We're wearing
Mhm.
masks all over the place. And I'm sure it's similar there in Japan. Are there any glaring differences? Have you talked to people back home, family at home, saying, "Yeah, man, we're doing this, and you're doing something different"? Anything that jumps out?
No, I don't think there's anything real different. It's just over here in Japan, they wear masks anytime they think they
Right.
get a cold or allergy or whatever. They'll put a mask on to protect others. So this whole putting a mask on for COVID is nothing new for them. It's just
They do it
normal.
and just keep on going.
They exactly just do it and keep on going. So I said they do it before they get a cold or when they think they have allergies or whatever. Just if they get the sniffles, they throw on a mask.
And you're saying
So
that
this is
not
not
just on this visit, but your previous visit to Japan has been similar.
exactly.
How about in other parts of the world?
I've not been in well. We
I mean, just in
our
general.
last trip in general. In Asian countries, I think they wear masks more than they do in European countries. So that's what I've seen. Our last trip was to southern Taiwan just before COVID happened. So that was back in February of this year, and then things kind of exploded. So we haven't been traveling since February of this year. So
Well, none of us really have. I mean, I went to see
no,
my mother. That was my big
yeah,
trip so
yeah,
far. So it's a
yeah.
different world. But that's just
It really
interesting
is.
the way that the response has been to America. And but we're gonna move away from that because I know Walter's exploding. He's we've had some interesting
Well,
conversations, but we ain't going there. But to that end, I mean, you're obviously a stranger in a strange land. You've been doing that often. You've gone to different countries. What's that like? I mean, when you get off a base, your home is you and your wife. I mean, people don't speak English. How do you interact with the folks? How is there any crazy stories, or has it been different for every place, or you have a routine?
we kind of have a routine, but it's been different every place. So we have a friend that we travel with a lot. Well, friends we travel with a lot. So our friend Jenna, she is a career civilian Air Force log planner. So she plans all of our trips. Well, most of our trips she plans, and then we travel with her. She's been to I think almost 100 countries now. So we're trying to catch up with Jenna. But she grew up overseas. Her dad's a retired Army colonel, so she grew up overseas in Japan and Germany. So she's been doing this for almost all her life. So she plans our trips, but when we do travel, we have to watch out to make sure that we don't see people more than 3 times. If we do, then we kind of get suspicious and have to take note. So when we come back, we have to either debrief with OSI that we saw this person more than three
OSI
times.
is
Yeah, I'm sorry, Office of Special
a special
Investigation for the
investigation,
Air Force.
which is
So
like
we have
which is
to.
like a spy agency, right?
No, they're not. They're like the
No, they're not. They're not. No.
FBI kind
At
of
the at
for
the
the Air Force.
FBI. FBI. Well,
Yeah, like the
they have special agents
FBI.
there.
Yeah, they are. They do. But
That's
so
interesting.
other than us kind of watching out for people around us when we travel, we don't. We just kind of try to learn. Thank you, please, hello, goodbye. Like basic stuff when we go to a country before we go to a country. So kind of,
Yeah, because
not
you
that I
got to
can
go to
blend
grocery
in.
stores and gas stations and all that kind of stuff, and everybody doesn't speak English. I mean, I'm sure a lot of people do, especially
Yeah,
near a large military base. But
oh yeah, they do.
going to the
They do.
environment, to the countryside, as it were, you will have
Exactly.
to you'll be expected to learn the language to some degree.
Exactly. To some degree. So I have a quick story. We were living in Turkey, and we took a quick trip up to Georgia, the Republic of Georgia, and we were trying to get into to Batumi. I think that was our first time going to Georgia. And my wife and our friends got through customs fine. When they got my passport, the customs agent looked at it sideways and upside down and all kind of ways, and then she called a colleague over to have her look at it. Then they brought out like one of those jewelry loops, like you look at rings, to look at my passport even closer. I'm like, I'm American, I'm not African. So some of these countries think that you're African and you got a fake passport and you're trying to get into their country for whatever reason. I'm like, and so finally they let me through customs. I'm like, man, really? Even in Georgia? Come on, come on, man. So I've had that experience a few times as we've traveled, but I'm like, whatever. It happens. So I just kind of go with it and not think too much of it. So
But once you got into
because I mean, there,
Georgia, was
yeah.
that how's that experience?
It was nice. We actually went back because we liked Tbilisi, the capital, better than Batumi. But Batumi, there wasn't a whole lot there. There were some casinos, so the Turks go over there to gamble because the Turks don't gamble. So they go to Georgia to gamble, but because they can't gamble in Turkey.
Gotcha.
So there's some casinos there. There's some nice historical things, a museum, that kind of stuff. But it wasn't a whole lot there. We went back to Tbilisi, my wife and I, by ourselves, and there was a lot of history. And the Turks were in and around that region. And there are a lot of spas and hot springs and that kind of thing there. So it was really nice. So we liked Tbilisi better than Batumi.
Yeah, I
And,
gotta
and,
admit,
and
I've been to Europe once while I was in the service, and I've always been leery about going to especially a former Soviet bloc country. But you went to Georgia, and I guess there was no. I mean, was there any of that? Was there anybody looking at you or treating you any differently because you were an American?
yeah, I think I was getting scared. I mean, I get scared in a lot of different countries that we go to. We've been to the Balkans 3 4 times, and we love the Balkans. So Serbia, Bosnia, Croatia, Montenegro, Slovenia, Slovakia, Albania 3 times. We love the Balkans. The food, the people, the culture. It's almost like a mix of European and Turkish, because the Turks
Mm.
ruled that whole region. So you have the hot springs, and you have different Islamic peoples and cultures there, and then European mix. It's incredible. It's incredible. So we could probably actually live in one of the Balkan countries and actually retire there someday.
So
So
that goes to this whole going native thing. I mean, you just said you could live there, but what's the prominent language in that country?
it's say in Albania or Croatia. It's Albanian in Albania and Croat in Croatia. But they also speak, I think, 2 other languages in Croatia, because it was a former Yugoslavia, so they kind of broke up. And I think there are 3 major languages in that area. So we would have to learn the language, of course, but then I still can't be native. I'm not going to be able to blend in.
But that's not a hindrance to you was saying, hey, I'd like to
No,
retire there. Wow.
no,
That
not at
says a
all.
lot about the country. I mean, it really left an impression on you.
Oh yeah, my wife, she's actually want to retire to Izmir, Turkey at some point in time. So we'll be overseas somewhere retired. But I'm thinking we'll probably have a home in Florida or Alabama somewhere, just to kind of come back and forth to as we, retire and live and enjoy
For
life.
family and that kind of
Yeah,
stuff.
exactly,
So
exactly.
what is it about? Was it the weather or the culture or the people or a combination of all?
Yeah, combination of all. I mean, the
Wow.
weather, the history, the food, just the culture in general. I mean, they're very hospitable people in that whole area. Like the Turks are like, they would do like the shirts off their back. They don't even know you, but they're just so welcoming. It's just incredible. I mean, I said it so I have some Turkish friends or folks that I met in Turkey, and this one young Turkish lady said that she thinks that black is perfect. I'm like, finally.
That's it.
I
I'm
mean,
staying here.
this is my country now. I mean, I mean, it goes from being raised and born in America to a country that kind of tolerates you to a country that would kind of almost celebrate you. Come on. I mean, how can you not love to be there? It's just, you know,
That would be tempting.
it would be. It would be.
So was that a personal friend of yours, or did you become friends, or you
I
have any
became
roots
friends.
anywhere?
I became friends. So we have several friends in Adana, Turkey, and Izmir, Turkey, that we would actually probably go and stay with if we could travel right now. You know, so I mean, they're really close friends of ours, and they're really that hospitable. So
So you've been to Turkey several times on assignment,
three times,
and
three
how much
times.
was that all together?
Total almost 6 years
6 years.
total.
So 2 years at a piece.
Uh, 2 3 years out of peace. Yeah.
Yeah. So you were moved that quickly. I mean that does say a lot. And you're like, I'm buying a house and that kind of stuff.
Yeah, exactly.
What
Exactly.
have you been anywhere else in Europe?
Oh, um,
So that's
so
yes.
yes, so back when I was in the Navy, I went to Spain, Greece, and Italy. When I was in the Air Force, we lived in Germany as a civilian. We've been to France. I've probably been to Normandy 3 times, Paris twice, Belgium several times, Luxembourg maybe 4 or 5 times, all over Germany, all over Switzerland, Austria, uh, Czech Republic, Hungary 3 times. So yeah, we've been around Europe a little bit.
So you're like
So yeah,
you're a true world citizen.
yeah, definitely, definitely.
You they say go and you go. You don't have
I
have
mean,
you
I could literally, we could literally go to a country and just get lost there, and no one would be able to find us. I mean, seriously.
so that's so again to the go native things. I mean, what is
Yeah.
your how do you do that? I mean, how do you make yourself? How is
Okay,
one for you
so
to go to a country and just feel like
to
you live there?
make myself more native or to blend in more, I would say go to local clothing stores and shoe stores and buy the clothes and the shoes there. So I was told that they can kind of tell Americans by the shoes we wear. Our shoes are different from the European style shoes. And you can just tell because their shoes look more like soccer shoes, or they're kind of like slick bottoms, really thin, that kind of thing. But you get the Nikes from the States, they're just totally different cut,
Right.
different style. So they can kind of tell. So if you buy local clothing and shoes, they might think that I'm African until I speak. You know, so they don't know if I'm from some African country or from the States until I say something. So
And that's been like I said, the one time I went to Europe, I was told that I walk like an American, and I
yeah,
mean I don't. I was
yeah,
like okay, but
yeah,
you look like an American, you sound like an American, and like you said, you dress like an
exactly.
American. So your first step to blend in, if
It's to buy clothing.
my fictional
Yeah,
character was to go
yeah,
there, was to be like buy local clothing. It's because you're not a spy.
exactly,
Jordan Noble
exactly.
was a spy,
Exactly.
so he would do that. I mean, he was talking to you. You would tell him to do it. Anything else? Is
Yeah.
there like a foods or anything like that that you need to know to order, or
Well,
is it
try
taboo to order
try
something?
try the food until you find something that you like and just enjoy it. I mean, don't turn your nose up at everything you look at. I mean, you have to try. If some of the stuff looks like you don't want to put it in your mouth, but you have to at least try it to find out that you like it or don't like it. Don't just
So is
say,
there
"Ooh,
anything that's
that
just
sucks."
like, oh my God, you ate and you can't believe you ate it, like roasted bat or something like that?
No, I did not eat roasted bat. Especially right now. Come on, man. What's wrong with you? I'm not eating
I'm
no
just
bat
saying.
soup, roasted
That
bat.
soup,
Come on.
I,
So,
I mean, snake or
the
anything.
no, probably the worst thing I've eaten is probably like meat from a goat's face. In Turkey, they like skin the whole goat or whatever, and they have different pieces of meat. But they say the cheek meat is like the most tender part of it. So I've
I
had
never
like
know.
cheek meat from a goat or from a sheep or whatever. So that's probably the strangest thing I've eaten. It just looked bad because the goat was like the head was skin. I'm like, I'm eating that. So, but they cooked it though. They cooked it before I ate it. So
So
yeah,
when's the last time you've been stateside?
we were stateside. What's this? It's 2020. So 19 of December. So just for Christmas. So we came home just for Christmas, And then my wife's parents like, why can't you guys stay for Christmas? And it's like, well, we already have a trip planned to Indonesia, India, Tibet, and Nepal. So we couldn't stay for Christmas because we had a trip planned already before we went back to the States. And it's a good
All
thing we
those
did go back to the
places.
States. Yeah, for all those places. So for the end of last year, we went to India, Nepal, and Tibet, and I think Indonesia. So yeah, I mean, when we travel, we travel. Yeah. So we
So when
probably
you
spent the longest on that trip. Go ahead.
so when you come home, is America another country or is it home?
It's another country. It really is. I mean, we've traveled so much now. It's like when we go home, you have people who haven't left their cities. You know, their
Hmm.
same city that they were born and raised in. They haven't been outside of that. So trying to explain to them the things we've seen and done. That's why I take so many pictures to kind of share what we've done and seen. But even then, people don't understand us anymore. It's like, you've been where, you've done what, you've seen what. It's like it's hard to. I don't know. It's like going from this to this, and you can't go back to this
Yeah.
again. You know. So
Uh,
it's kind of hard and different to explain to people in the states who've never been outside their city or their state what it's like to live us like we live. You know, I mean, this is like normal for us now. So when we
but
don't travel, we're
conversely,
like,
you must encounter natives who are the same way, who've never left their
oh yeah,
30
yeah,
miles.
yeah, definitely. So we've traveled more around Turkey than the Turks have, because the Turks don't travel like we do. I mean, why would a Turk go from their village to go see Istanbul, to go see, Cappadocia? They're like, why am I going there? So as Americans, we probably don't travel our country nearly as much as we need to. There's so much in our country that we need to see still, that we don't
Except
get
for
out and
North
see,
Dakota.
because it's America. Yeah, it's North Dakota.
Every place
I've
but
not
there.
been there. You've been
Yeah.
there.
No, no,
I've
no.
been
Every
there.
place but there. But that is very
Yeah.
true.
So
One of the things I noticed when I was a young man that I lived in Detroit, and Detroit is borders Canada, and there were people who never been to Canada, and I remember I took some guys who lived right across the street from me, and we were driving to the house my father owned up there at the time, and they had never seen wheat before, and they just,
wow.
I mean, their noses were literally pressed up to the glass, looking at the wheat go by. So,
Yeah.
but some of that is because there's some social things going on in our country. Some of it's economics, and just like you've experienced when you go to other countries, they have the same thing. Why would I go see wheat? I got I got
Exactly.
I got goat face to eat. So I got my own thing to do. But that's just
Exactly.
that's interesting that it's that striking to you, and I enjoy doing these things. And just briefly, the last person talked, Walter. I was in Walter's instructor, and that's why he mentioned that I knew he went to the Navy before, because we knew that him coming in, and so was Stinger, the person I interviewed last. And the thing that's interesting about this is that when you talk to other people who've had other experience, what they've seen, and it's not unbelievable, but it is kind of shocking to hear these things about you from your point of view. I mean, I knew you were, I think that's your screen name, World Traveler or something like
It
that.
is.
And I
Yeah,
knew
it
you've
is.
been to, and then last time I checked, it was 53 countries. Now you said it's almost 60 something. So,
63.
it's
Yeah.
interesting to see that impact that all these cultures and everything have on you, that you haven't been spying on, that you're just
No,
doing you're
I'm
doing
just
the
traveling,
logistics thing.
just traveling, and enjoying the
Just
world.
generally enjoying the world. So, hey, Turkey
So,
is out. Oh, sorry. Go ahead. Please go ahead.
so I was just gonna say, so on our one trip we were in Central South America, and I passed another Black American, and she's like, "Thank the Lord," and we both started laughing. It's like so funny to just run into another American in a foreign country somewhere.
Take a picture
It's
together.
exciting. No, we didn't take a picture together. So, but yeah.
Man, but that's. I mean, I guess that's something that just to see another American in some cases might be odd, and you found another African American, that had to be something.
Exactly.
Um,
Exactly.
do you get a lot of news? You hear about what's going on back in the States, and does that seem foreign to
We
you
do.
now?
We do. I mean, we watch the news online or whatever, in MSN or other news stations, kind of see what's going on. So after a while, though, you can't just sit there and watch that stuff. I mean, it kind of, it's a lot.
Is
It's a
it
lot all
different
the
than
time. So
is it different flavor or a tempo than local news wherever you are? I mean, I guess Okinawa news can't be as
yeah.
violent written as Americans.
No, it's not. I mean, this place is so safe. I mean, there are people that don't even lock the doors to their houses still. I mean, it's like open out. I mean, you have kids that like walk to school by themselves. I mean, kids look like 2 and 3 years old. They're probably 5 and 6. So I'm like, where are your parents? So, but they train these kids so young that they can cross the street by themselves and just go to school and do whatever you do and come home. So it's so safe over here. It
Just
really is.
another culture, another example of,
Another
it's probably
world.
healthy for us to go out and experience these things.
Exactly. Go out
But
and see
Walt,
the world.
I'm gonna ask you another question.
Okay.
So Turkey's out. You can't go to Turkey. You
Okay.
get a free week's vacation anywhere in the world. Where do
Yes.
you go?
So I was thinking about this question. I've not been to the continent of Africa.
Hmm.
So I will either go to South Africa or Botswana and do like a photo safari and then just experience the culture and the food and the people and just enjoy it. I've not been to Africa. I so want to go to the continent so bad, but right now we can't. There was plans for us to go from Turkey to Egypt to visit, and then before we left Turkey, and then the colonel came back and said that the threat condition was too high, so he denied our travel. But the tickets to from Turkey to Egypt were like $130 something a person, round trip. So we were going to go to Egypt and see Egypt, but we got denied and turned down. So at some point in time, we'll go.
The threat condition.
Right.
When was this?
This was we were in Turkey from 2011 to 2014. So it was probably at the end of 13 or beginning of 14 that we tried to go in.
Was that the Arab Springs?
Maybe.
Yeah.
Maybe. Or yeah. So we couldn't go to Egypt. But we will get there at some point in time. We will get to the continent of Africa and probably see all 50 plus countries on that continent before I die.
I'm telling you, given your track record, Walter, I don't doubt it at all.
Yeah.
Walter, I really want to thank you for taking time out of your day. Walter's in
Not a
Japan.
problem.
I'm in Central Time, United States. So we're not even the same day. So I really appreciate you, sparing some of your weekend and talking to me, and hopefully, giving people a little flavor of what's going on out there in the world, different points of view. I do have not all my fan base is in the United States, so some of them may appreciate what you're talking about. I also think, thinking about what you were saying earlier, it might be because the United States is so big and we don't get an opportunity to travel out. So you have to go a long way if you're in Kansas to get to somebody who speaks another language or something. So that might be some of it. But then again, like I said, I was in Detroit, where you could literally see another country and people hadn't been there. So that might be some cultural things, some ethnocentric natures of Americans. But you've broken that, and I personally found that very interesting. Again, Walter and I met when he was a mere cadet, and cadets are the lowest form of life on earth.
Wow.
They grow up to be lieutenants who are just about this much better. Hey, we all went through it. Walter was a exceptional student then. I really appreciate that. I remember the last time I saw you was at another lieutenant's wedding. I think it was Wes's wedding.
Wes's wedding, yeah.
I don't think you had to start doing all your traveling quite then, but Walter's done a lot of traveling, seen a lot of things, and again, thank you for showing up. For the rest of you guys, please go down to the links below. And if you haven't bought any of the books, check them out. If you have, use those links, go somewhere and get drop a review for me. And Walter says he's slugging his way through one of mine right now, and I'm waiting for that review of his. So that's going to be glowing and make me cry. And
yes, it is.
Move to tears.
It will be.
All right, man. But hey, thank you so much, and everybody. See you on the internet. Walter, thanks a lot, man. Have a good day.
Not a problem. You too.
All right.